For more than 200 years, America has been a symbol of hope for millions of immigrants in search of a better life. In the past 50 years, few places have embodied that hope more closely than the state of Florida, especially its gateway city, Miami. Here, the immigrant's dream is most vividly captured in past echoes of the now empty rooms and stately balconies of a majestic tower. A tower built 78 years ago with the sole purpose of housing a local newspaper.
Jim Cox bought what was then the Miami Metropolis in the early 1920s, and he wanted to get a new home for it. And he saw the boulevard as an emerging Fifth Avenue, so he decided to build a beautiful building.
The 17-story tower was built in 1925 on the burgeoning Biscayne Boulevard. The imposing Spanish-style structure was modeled after the Herald Bell Tower in Seville.
Well, it was a fantastic headquarters because it overlooked the port of Miami. So the boulevard, as Cox anticipated, was becoming a great street, a great entryway into Miami.
The Miami Daily News made its home at the tower until 1957, when the paper moved closer to the Miami River. But something was happening at the time that would forever change the tower's destiny. Cuban refugees were beginning to pour into the city to escape the regime of Fidel Castro. In 1962, the federal government purchased the tower to create an assistance center for the newly arrived refugees. One such arrival was a middle-aged attorney named Fernando Mendogutia.
I was looking for a job, and one day they called me for an interview, and about 50 old Cuban lawyers were interviewed for one job as a registration agent. Unfortunately, I ended number one. And they called me and they hired me as a registration interviewer.
Fernando joined the staff at the tower's Cuban Refugee Emergency Center, helping fellow Cubans and non-Cuban nationals to find jobs as well as food and medical aid.
I saw people who had been Supreme Court justices and high governors, and they came here and they didn't speak English. They were old, and it was very sad to interview them. Well, we were hoping they would stay here for just a short while and go back to Cuba. Nobody thought that Castro was going to stay that long. I always say next Christmas in Cuba.
Between 1962 and 1974, an estimated 400,000 Cuban refugees were processed through the tower, prompting locals to begin calling it the Freedom Tower. In 1973, the assistance center shut down and the tower became abandoned and fell into disrepair. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, the structure was for the most part left alone.
Different people owned it. Some people undertook restoration. They had grandiose ideas for it, but it never happened.
But the tower had not been forgotten. In 1997, the Moss family, founders of the Cuban American National Foundation, purchased the building, hoping to repair it and create a museum that would depict the Cuban refugee story in Miami. Last September, the foundation and local Miami officials honored visiting President Václav Havel at a newly restored Freedom Tower for his record as a champion of human rights.
Very important that a leader of the stature like President Havel comes here to pay tribute to what this symbolizes. The tower, I think, represents a lasting tribute to the greatness of America and its values of freedom, of democracy, and of social justice.
The tower has recaptured its former beauty, but it's back on the market. Dreams for a museum put on hold, the structure's future once again uncertain. 30 years after his work at the tower ended, Fernando and his wife Irma revisit the place that has come to mean so much to him and to hundreds of thousands of Cuban exiles.
This is the waiting area. There was a counter over there where they were first assigned to an interviewer. It brings me a lot of memories to my mind.
At its very essence, the tower will always be a cherished Florida symbol of the immigrant dream.
I'm very proud of the work we did there. To Cubans, it means the gate of freedom.